You wake up every morning, work hard, earn money, but by the end of the month, it feels like nothing's moving forward. You're not alone in this. Millions of people are trapped in an invisible cycle where money comes in and goes out without leaving a trace, without building anything real. And the hardest thing to accept is that often it's not about earning too little, but about how you choose to spend it. There are 5 spending decisions that seem harmless, even normal, but they act like a silent anchor preventing you from moving forward. They're not extreme vices or obvious indulgences. They're things most people consider reasonable, justifiable, even necessary. But when you look honestly, you realize they're not bringing you closer to freedom. They're chaining you to an endless present where you never finish building something solid. We're going to talk about this straight up, without judging you, but with the clarity you deserve. Because if nobody tells you, you'll keep repeating the same patterns for years, believing the problem is your salary, when really the problem is how you think about money and about yourself. The first thing you need to stop buying is external validation through objects. This includes brand name clothing you buy not because you need it, but because you want others to see you a certain way. It includes the car that's more expensive than you can comfortably afford, the latest phone version every year, the accessories that scream status but add nothing real to your life. Warren has said many times that true wealth is invisible. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to prove itself. Truly prosperous people aren't competing on appearances because they've already won the game that matters, the internal game of financial security and peace of mind. When you buy to impress, you're playing a game that has no end. There will always be someone with something more expensive, newer, flashier, and meanwhile, each purchase takes you further from the real goal, which is having enough money saved so that time can work in your favor. Think of this like planting a tree. Every time you spend on appearance, you're pulling up a seed before it can grow, and then you wonder why you have no shade, why you have no fruit. The answer is simple. You never gave anything enough time to grow. The second thing you need to stop buying is instant convenience that destroys your monthly budget. This includes subscriptions you don't use but keep paying for, delivery apps that turn a $5 meal into a $15 one, unnecessary rides when you could walk or take public transit, shopping at the expensive grocery store because it's closer, even though you know you could save 30% going somewhere else. It seems small, seems trivial, but when you add up all these micro decisions over a month, a year, a decade, the number becomes frightening. This isn't about living miserably. It's about understanding that each small decision is a vote for who you want to be in the future. Every time you choose instant convenience over conscious saving, you're voting for a future where you'll still be trapped, where you'll still have no options. And the trap is that these decisions don't hurt in the moment. You don't feel the immediate impact, but the damage accumulates silently like water eroding stone drop by drop until one day you realize you've been working for years and have nothing to show for it. The third thing you need to stop buying is constant entertainment as a substitute for a life with purpose. This includes going out to eat or drink every weekend like it's mandatory, spending on experiences you don't really remember or value, buying things to fill the void of not having clear goals. Modern culture sells you the idea that you should live intensely, that you should enjoy now because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And while there's truth in valuing the present, it's also true that this mindset is often an excuse to avoid the discomfort of building something lasting. Warren has always lived extraordinarily simply for someone at his level. Not because he's cheap, but because he understands something fundamental. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy freedom. And freedom is built by giving up things that don't matter today, to have options that do matter tomorrow. When you spend all your money on weekly entertainment, you're trading your future for a repetitive, forgettable present. You're selling your future time, your ability to choose, your possibility of saying no to jobs you don't like, all for a few hours of fun that evaporate before Sunday ends. Think about how many times you've spent money on something that 2 weeks later you don't even remember. Think about how many times you've said you don't have money to invest, to train yourself, to start something, but you do have money to go out, to buy, to consume without thinking. I'm not saying don't enjoy yourself. I'm saying be aware of what you're sacrificing every time you decide to spend without reflecting. The fourth thing you need to stop buying is the illusion that expensive objects will make you more productive or successful. This includes professional equipment you buy before mastering the basics, the premium gym membership you barely use, expensive courses you never finish, tech gadgets that promise to transform your life but end up gathering dust. It's the syndrome of believing that buying something is the same as being someone. The reality is that results come from consistency and effort, not from expensive tools. You can have the best equipment in the world and achieve nothing if you don't have discipline. You can have the cheapest tools and build something extraordinary if you have clarity and consistency. Warren didn't need fancy offices, cutting-edge technology, or any kind of sophisticated paraphernalia to build what he built. He needed time, patience, simplicity, and the ability to resist the temptation to complicate things. Every time you buy something expensive thinking it's going to motivate or transform you, you're avoiding the real question. Are you willing to do the hard work regardless of what tools you have? If the answer is no, no purchase is going to save you. And if the answer is yes, you probably don't need to spend that much. The fifth thing you need to stop buying is other people's time at the cost of your own future time. This sounds abstract, but it's devastating when you understand it. Every time you buy something on credit that isn't essential, every time you finance a lifestyle you can't afford with your current income, every time you borrow to consume instead of to invest, you're selling your future time. You're committing hours, days, months of your life working to pay for something you probably don't even remember why you bought. Compound interest works in two directions. It can work in your favor when you save and invest, multiplying your money over time. But it also works against you when you go into debt to consume, multiplying your burden and reducing your freedom. The difference between someone who builds wealth and someone who stays financially trapped almost always comes down to this. One lets time multiply their money, the other lets time multiply their debts. And here's something few people really understand. It's not just about the amount of debt. It's about the mindset it creates. When you live in debt, you live in fear. Fear of losing your job, fear of something breaking, fear of the future. And that fear makes you make decisions from desperation, not from strategy. You accept jobs you hate. You tolerate situations that harm you. You give up opportunities because you can't afford to take risks. Debt doesn't just take your money, it takes your negotiating power over your own life. Now let's talk about what's really happening behind all this. It's not just about 5 spending categories. It's about a way of thinking about money that's deeply rooted in how you were raised, in what you see around you, in what advertising and culture constantly tell you. It's about confusing income with wealth, confusing spending with living, confusing appearance with reality. The scarcity mindset makes you spend because you feel like you'll never have enough, so you might as well enjoy now. The abundance mindset, the mindset that builds real wealth, understands that precisely because the future is uncertain, you need to build a solid foundation. It understands that true security doesn't come from spending everything you earn feeling like you're living to the fullest, but from having a financial cushion that lets you face the unexpected without collapsing. Warren has lived his entire life by a very simple principle. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference with patience, and let time do the heavy lifting. There's no magic, no hidden secrets, no shortcuts. Just mental clarity, sustained discipline, and the ability to say no to things that don't matter so you can say yes to the things that do. Think about this. Every purchase you make is a statement about your priorities. If you looked at your expenses from last month with total honesty, you'd see a clear map of what you really value, not what you say you value. And often that map reveals a brutal disconnect between who you want to be and how you're living. You say you want financial freedom, but you spend like tomorrow doesn't matter. You say you want peace of mind, but you constantly go into debt. You say you want to build something, but every month you're back at zero. Change doesn't start with earning more. It starts with thinking differently. It starts with understanding that money is concentrated energy. It's time converted into value, and every time you spend it, you're choosing what to convert that time into. Are you converting it into objects that lose value? Are you converting it into forgettable experiences? Or are you converting it into future freedom, into options, into the ability to live on your own terms? There's a moment in a person's financial life that changes everything. It's not when you earn your first big paycheck. It's not when you buy something expensive. It's when you have enough money saved that an emergency won't destroy you. It's when you can say no to an abusive job because you have margin. It's when you look at your bank account and feel peace instead of anxiety. That moment doesn't come from luck. It comes from consistent, repeated, sometimes uncomfortable decisions you make long before the result is visible. And the hardest part of all this is that it requires going against the current. It requires being different. It requires that when your friends go out to spend, you stay home or suggest something more affordable. It requires that when everyone's buying the latest model, you keep using the one that works. It requires that when culture tells you, consume, impress, live on the edge, you say no. I build, I save, I think in decades. Warren understood from a very young age that the real competition isn't with others, it's with yourself. It's not about having more than your neighbor, it's about having enough so that money stops being your main concern. And to get there, you need to give up many things that most people consider normal. You need to develop a relationship with money based on respect, not emotion. You need to see each dollar, each euro, each peso as a seed that can grow if you plant it instead of eating it. Compound interest is the most powerful force in personal finance, but it requires two things most people don't have: patience and consistency. It doesn't work in a month or in a year. It works in decades, and that's why most people never experience it. Because we live in a culture of instant gratification where waiting 10 years for something feels impossible. But think about this. Those 10 years are going to pass anyway. The question isn't whether they'll pass, but how you'll arrive at the end of those 10 years. With nothing, repeating the same patterns, or with a financial foundation that changes your life. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to never spend on anything you enjoy. But you do need to be conscious. You need to ask yourself before each purchase, does this bring me closer to or further from the life I want? Am I buying out of need, out of real value? Or am I buying out of emotion, out of fear, out of wanting to fit in? And when the answer is the latter, you need to have the courage to stop. This isn't easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. But it's not impossible either. Millions of people have transformed their financial lives simply by stopping doing things that were harming them. Simply by understanding that the path to wealth isn't complicated, it just requires doing the simple things for a long time without deviating. 10 years from now, you're going to look back. And you're going to remember this moment, this video, this reflection. And you're going to ask yourself, did I make the right decisions? Did I change anything? Or did I stay the same, letting time pass without building anything solid? The answer to that question doesn't depend on your salary, doesn't depend on the economy, doesn't depend on luck. It depends solely on the decisions you make today, tomorrow, and every day after that. Small decisions that seem insignificant, but when added up over years, completely define your financial destiny. The question isn't whether you can change. The question is whether you're going to decide to do it now, before it's too late, before you look back and see only wasted years doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.